Welcome to Unit 3. You may notice that I'm not Eric. I'll be updating you this week instead of him because he's off having very cool adventures. But he'll be back, I think, as soon as next week. But we'll talk about that later. I just wanted to say that we've seen such great work in this course so far. We're really excited about what we see, and we want to see more. We've gotten greedy for it. So please, participate in the forums, share your projects. This week you're transitioning into making things, probably finally for some of you. So really feel free to share stuff in the forums, get feedback, because this is a really big studio class. Think of it as like you're just hanging out making stuff with 12,000 of your friends. Okay? All right. Some of the stuff that we've really been liking. The accidental learning activity break, a couple things, examples we really like there. KCS Carp, the poker probability and psych, I thought was a really nice way to match Kurt's story and then tell a similar story about really important learning where you were like, oh yeah, I already know this from playing a game. And Marielle D wrote a great like an essay, like it could be in the New Yorker as far as I'm concerned, about learning to travel or learning to think about travel through role-playing games. And also course TA Kyrie had a great response to that too. So I encourage you to seek that out because it's just very pleasurable reading. The applications of the framework were also great. I feel like we talk about John from Dublin a lot, but we can't ignore how good his analysis of tarot was. Not the divination technique, but the game tarot, which is similar. So thorough, such a nice example, worth taking a look at. Robert Mod Lit BA, which I assume means you have a modern literature Bachelor of Arts, had a wonderfully thorough analysis of World of Warcraft that I think is super worth taking a look at. He both deeply understands World of Warcraft and how it functions as a learning environment, or how it sets up, how it integrates with Scott's principles and why that makes it an interesting potential learning environment. Kyuko Chida put up what I think is not quite a takedown of Brain Wars, but is exactly the sort of thing that we want to see in terms of, there's some things that are put forth as learning games that maybe, at least according to how we think about them in this course, are not great learning games. And I thought she did a really great job of sort of helping us understand why Brain Wars maybe didn't meet those criteria. And then Tomps GJ had a wonderful experience in Adventure Capitalist, where I think the game was a really good replication of that system, such that he had an experience of like having fun, making a lot of money, which I think venture capital is, but also then feeling like a little disappointed or empty by the experience, which I also think some venture capitalists have that experience too. So, it's a great game because it's a nice simulation of the system, and it's also a good learning opportunity. It's a great opportunity to see how you feel about that type of activity. Other people may play Adventure Capitalist and think it's really great. It's like a great experience to have. So I thought that was a wonderful one worth reading as well. Pitches we liked. Michelle Full's Hanji Hospital is adorable. It's so fun to read. And I love the storyline around it. But I also principally think that when you're thinking about something like writing characters, the ability to notice where damage is a great way to think through how to repair Hanji or how to write Hanji and notice differences. So I thought that was really cool. Ross Parker's Code Fishing is both a cool game idea and a really wonderful conversation after it in terms of how feasible it may be, or and things like that. So it's really worth taking a look at that pitch and the conversation after it. Mark Smallwood's The Plant Zone is also just such a nice example of a very small, doable game, I think, for this course that really understands what you can achieve in games. Just the simple ability to learn how plants behave in different environments is such a great, it really gets at what games are good at, right? You understand systems, you can make interesting choices and learn from those by getting feedback, all the things that Scott and Eric already talked about. So it's a wonderful pitch worth taking a look at as well. And then in the mod the game, Kelly Draper's Ionic is a really fun mod of Spin the Jewel by DB. And it doesn't necessarily have a clear goal yet, but it's such an interesting modification of the original, and it's so on its way to being something truly fascinating. So take a look at that one, and maybe if she gets some good feedback, that could be even a stronger game. And then Helms Kelly, the coin jump game, just a relatively simple in terms of like gameplay modification of our basic move and jump. But I thought you identified it, hey, why not give it a goal? And why not make it impossibly hard? I spent so much time this morning playing that game, and it was infuriatingly challenging. So good work. And the thing I can tell you in confidence, though, is that I did much better than Eric would have. Professor Klopfer's weakness, it's platformers. Finally, just wanted to give a shout out to the Math Games Affinity Group. Such a fascinating affinity group, such really great work going on there. If you're in an affinity group that's struggling, or you want to, you just want to do more interesting stuff with your affinity group, pop on over to the Math Games group and take a look at the work they're doing there, because it's really interesting. And I think every group, every learning group everywhere could learn from what they're doing. Awesome. So just a quick reminder that this Unit 3, is 2 weeks. So you're going to have 2 weeks to work on your games. We'll have another update video next week. Eric should be back unless something adventurous happens on his adventure. And also next week there is going to be a Hangout on Air where you'll be able to get projects critiqued by Eric and Scott and access sort of like expert thinking about how we see these games and how we see the game design process, and there's more information on that on the platform. All right, everyone, great work. We love to see what you're doing, and we hope to see more of it, and we'll see you next week.